All right. So, hello, everybody. This is Ryan over at High Carb Regenerator. I have a special guest with me today, Stephen Sashen. Your co-owner, correct?
My wife really owns most of the company, and I work for her. So I'm a
Okay.
co-founder and CEO, but
Okay.
I'm in a women-owned business.
Okay. Xero Shoes, my one of my favorite companies, and by far my favorite shoe company. I've never. I actually, it's all I own. You've seen my reviews. I've got like 15 pair or something like that. I actually meant to bring some over here and I completely forgot. But
They're all behind me.
yeah, they're all mine. So my first question to you is, what made you think, let's sell a DIY
Yeah,
sandal kit?
you're already giving me way too much credit. It was not There was not that much thinking involved. So what happened was, so I got back into sprinting 15 years ago. I was 45, was getting injured all the time. A friend of mine suggested I take off my shoes, see if I learned anything from running barefoot. And the gist of it is I learned why I was getting injured, because fundamentally, by the way, I'm not telling anyone to run barefoot. And what we're talking about really is about form, not footwear. It's just that certain footwear interferes with natural form and certain footwear encourages it. So regular shoes that look kind of like this, they get in the way. And when I was in bare feet, I could feel the form problem that I couldn't feel in a big, thick shoe with a bunch of cushioning. And it naturally changed because running barefoot wrong hurts and running barefoot correctly feels good. But here's the kicker. Rumor has it that it's challenging to get into restaurants in bare feet. They get all
Yeah.
pissy, even though it's not illegal. They may have a policy, but it's not illegal. And if they don't have a policy, then you can go in. And also there's things that, you don't necessarily want to step on or in. And then my wife didn't like when I came home after being barefoot all day and I'm walking on our mostly white carpeting. So put it all together and I started making sandals based on this 10,000-year-old idea. And footwear for 99.9% of human history was really that simple. Something to protect your foot, something to hold that protection on your foot, maybe some insulation. So that's what this whole DIY idea was. And so I started making sandals for me, for my wife, for other barefoot runners, various random humans who said this looked really cool. And one day a guy says to me, I've got a book coming out on barefoot running. And if you had a website for this sandal making hobby of yours, I'd put you in the book. Well, I've been an internet marketer for a long time. So I rush home and I pitch this brilliant idea to my wife, who assures me it is a stupid, horrible idea that won't make any money and is a waste of time and a distraction from other things we were doing. So I promised her I wouldn't build a website like he asked. And then when she went to bed, I built a website. And so, and it was literally, we thought, if we're lucky, it'll be a car payment. And within a couple of weeks, it was obvious that we were onto something significant. And she had a change of heart. My wife is a brilliant operations finance person. I'm a product marketing person. And she walks in and goes, okay, I'm all in. You're going to need me to help run this thing. And that's how it all began 12 and a half years ago.
It's amazing. I actually have a kind of a funny story about that. I've been vegan for 11 years and I had one of your kits. And I think your original kits came with a leather punch to punch out the, okay. I got lambasted for having a leather punch.
It's not a leather punch. It's a punch. You can use it for anything.
I know,
Oh
but
God,
I
that's
mean,
hysterical.
I was like, are you kidding me? Like, so anyway, so yeah, so you're
No, hold on. Let's go there for the fun of it. So I was a diehard vegan for a long time, vegetarian for most of my life. I eat some dairy, I eat some fish every now and then because I'm on the I don't know when I'm going to get hit by a bus diet.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, today, you want to hear what I ate today? I had two kinds of leftover cake. I had a Trader Joe's chocolate, basically their version of a Reese's peanut butter cup,
Yeah.
and 2 kiwis. That's all I've eaten today. I'm not saying that's how I eat every day.
Yeah,
I'm not recommending this, but today
yeah,
was a day where all I really cared about was some sugar, and I got it.
Yeah,
so anyway, so I'm totally hip to vegans and all their reasons for living and for doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But we've occasionally had people get upset with us because we have some leather shoes.
Yeah.
And we're a natural movement company first and foremost. We make vegan products whenever we can, but I would hope that you'd be happy that we make all these vegan products in the same way that, you go to grocery stores that don't sell nothing but vegan stuff, and your car, that you got the vegan option, but they also make leather things. I would hope that you would give us that same kind of consideration, that, you're glad we're giving you an option. And we're not just a 100% vegan company, because that limits us more than we would like. And some people go, oh, okay, my confusion was that I thought you were vegan only. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand. And some people just, kind of get their panties in a wad still. And our number one concern is changing people's lives feet first. And actually, I'm going to give you this last thing about vegan things. Somebody emailed me and complained that we had some non-vegan products and said, why don't you use the mushroom leather? And at the time I said, you mean the one they've made 1 meter of? That's all they've made so far. Yeah. Well, why don't you use the pineapple leather? I said, oh, you mean the one that says don't use for footwear? And then why don't you use the cactus leather? And I said, all right, well, we're looking at that one. He had like 5 different things. And I knew the answers immediately about why they didn't work. And his last response to me was, well, what makes you such an expert? Well, you mean other than the fact that I own a footwear brand and that our product development team has a combined total of 300 years in the industry? Other than that?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's, and honestly, this isn't 100% like just an eating channel. This is like a get your life back on track channel, which is basically my journey after.
Which is a big one. And pardon me for interrupting, but again, I'm not trying to, just diss on vegans, because I can do the same thing for people who are diehard carnivores and paleo people. I mean, basically what I'm trying to say is that one of the things that I enjoy doing is questioning the things that I believe. Yeah. And wondering if they're true and wondering why I hold on to them so tightly. And so when I see people who hold on to something very tightly, it's my natural inclination to kind of poke at that for a little bit, because there's lots of ways to live on this planet. Not everything is perfect for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And so what brought you out? Now, first of all, it was Invisible Shoes or something like that in the beginning, right?
Wow, you're dating me. So yeah, when I came up with this idea, I'm going to build a website while my wife is asleep.
Yeah.
I needed a name, and I came up with the idea of Invisible Shoes, and that's what we used. But then one day I met a guy who people have been trying to introduce me to him for a while. He was the former vice president of marketing for a multi-billion-dollar fitness company.
Yeah.
And we get together for lunch, and the first thing he does is he looks at my feet and he goes, I can see them. I said, yeah, but it kind of feels like you're not wearing anything. He said, I can see them. So all right. So then we decided to rebrand, and we became Xero with an X.
Okay. Well, you answered another question. All right. So
no, wait, I got a better version of that. So we worked with a very expensive marketing team, expensive for us at the time, and they came up with a name. I'm going to spell it for you. Okay. XOICS.
Who's what? Why?
Exactly. I was going, what the hell? I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to spell it. If I say it, no one's going to know how to spell it.
No.
What the hell? And they said, well, and they started to explain why it was a really cool name. I went, oh, no. If you have to explain it, it's not cool. So exactly. We got into a big argument about that. But then a couple of days later, I was sitting around after track practice thinking, I like the idea of something starting with an X. What can I do with that? And then I came up with Xero.
Yeah.
And they got all mad. And then I came up with the logo, and they got all mad. And I said, I couldn't have done this without you. I wouldn't have thought of this on my own. So I'm happy to give you the money, but relax. And they could never quite relax. They wanted to be the heroes instead of a collaborator.
Exactly. Speaking of which, I forgot to mention, I'm going to put links down below so you can check out Xero Shoes, and I'll put your links across somewhere here because you've got you've got a YouTube and an Instagram. Do you use anything else? Because I actually met you initially a couple of years ago on YouTube.
Yeah. We got a bunch of, and basically we're at Xero Shoes or /Xero Shoes, wherever you can add a slash.
Okay. And you were on Shark Tank, correct? Because I think I saw, that's like the only episode I've ever seen of that show. And it didn't look like it was going to go well.
Yeah, we're on, if people want to see it, they can go to xeroshoes.com/Shark Tank and you can see it. We recorded that like 10 years ago. It aired in January and June of 2013. And the thing about Shark Tank is, first of all, it looks like a conversation, and it is far from it. So one of the sharks asks you 5 questions, and while you're answering number 3, another one asks you 10 questions. And if you switch, the first one gets mad. And if you don't switch, the second one gets mad. And they're just trying to, just go, gotcha. And they're always looking for a way to make it seem like, they gotcha. And you'll see every time someone says, I'm out, they'll cut to us going like, what? Which we never really did, because we didn't care.
Yeah.
We were just like moving on. So it's edited. We were in there for like 45 minutes. It turns into 8 or 9. And it didn't go the way we anticipated, but we could not be happier with the results. I mean, that show, it was, first of all, it just made us focus on what we wanted to do and why we wanted to do it. And then it really helped just giving us that kind of awareness as well. So while we turned down a $400,000 offer, it made total sense to us because it was a horrible offer. But the number of people the next day calling us morons for walking away from almost $500,000 was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So where exactly did it come into an idea that to actually start building shoes? Where did that idea populate?
From customers. It was, yeah. So we were doing this DIY sandal kit where you develop the superpower of knowing how to make your own shoes. And then people would say, that's cool, but I don't want to make my own. So we came up with a ready to wear version of that. And I now have a patent on the lacing system that I thought of for that. And then they say, hey, that's great, but I need something with a little more protection because I'm running on trails. So we did our trail shoe or trail sandal. And then that's great, but what do I do in the winter or when it's cold or when I have to go to work? And so then we developed our first casual shoe, then our first performance shoe. And it's the evolution from a do-it-yourself sandal kit to 30 different styles of casual and performance boots, shoes, and sandals has mostly been driven by people saying, here's what I need next. Because once you get into natural movement, once you let your feet do what they're made to do, you just can't go back to some shoe that squeezes your toes together and elevates your heel and screws with your posture and doesn't let you feel the ground and get the feedback you need for effective motion, et cetera. So it's been word of mouth and customers, and word of mouth has grown the business, and customer suggestions have been the number one thing that has grown the product line.
Yeah, I can 100% imagine. Actually, I was working at the post office at the time and I needed a pair of shoes, and I just happened to come across your shoes at one of the shoe stores, like right across from the post office. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know they started making, shoes at this point. So I got those, and that's actually what started me on the whole journey. Now, how many people come back at you and say, how much pain they're in, or, how dare you make such a minimal shoe? Do you still get that kind of thing? Or was that a lot in the beginning?
We actually never got that. It was the other way around. It was people who hadn't bought our product who would say, I'm going to get Achilles tendonitis and, it's going to kill me if I wear those. Like, really? Read the reviews. So I like to say calf pain is optional. Because calf pain there's a lot of misconceptions about the whole natural movement / barefoot thing. One is that you need to build calluses on your feet. Not true, because calluses come from excessive horizontal force or friction or heat. And if you're running properly, whether you're barefoot or in our shoes or any shoe, you're not actually developing that kind of motion that would lead to calluses or blisters, et cetera. In fact, if you're doing that, that's a sign you need to do something different. Yeah. Same thing with calf pain. People think, oh, you need to get stronger before you can handle it. Well, you will get stronger, but what you need to do actually is learn to go very, very short distances until you're having fun, until you're relaxed and it feels good and that you want to go farther. Yeah. So if you're getting a lot of calf soreness, it's a sign you've either done too much or you're doing something out of whack. And it's either, for calf soreness, you're either landing with your foot in front of your body on the ball of your foot. So you're dropping your foot slowly. You're trying to not just slam your heel onto the ground, or you're pushing off the ground to get your foot off the ground instead of the idea of lifting your foot off the ground by flexing your hip. Like if you imagine that you stepped on a bee, you wouldn't push off the ground. That would drive the stinger into your foot further. You'd lift off the ground reflexively. That's the kind of feeling that you want. And that kind of motion doesn't cause calf pain. So we get, every now and then we do get that, hey, I got a blister, or hey, I got a whatever. And we have a bunch of content to go, great, here's what to do to fix that. It's all about the form, not the footwear. And so we want to help people.
I've been I was shocked at how much my actual walking shortened, how much more steps I actually take comparatively to what I used to.
So there's another bit of mythology that when you're running barefoot or in something minimalist, you're shortening your stride. It's not really accurate, because stride length is literally the distance between when your foot leaves the ground and your next foot hits the ground. And that's a function of how much force you're putting into the ground and how fast you're running. So, and what your cadence is. And cadence is the number of steps you take per minute. So to run properly, the right form is that you're landing with your foot really as close to underneath your body as possible, not way out in front of your body. And one easy way to get your feet to land in the right spot is by picking up your cadence a little bit. So not a lot. So if you're running at 150 steps a minute, try 155 or maybe 160. There's no magic number. It's going to be different for different people. Depends on if you're going uphill, downhill, faster, slower. But so it's not that you're shortening your stride deliberately. It's like these other things may shorten your stride, but if you're running fast, like when I'm training, I'm a competitive sprinter. When I'm training at full speed, if I'm barefoot, my stride length is exactly the same as it would be if I was in shoes, because I'm running at the same speed at the same cadence.
Yeah.
So again, there's just these little subtle things where people confuse the effect from the cause.
Mhm.
And we want to try and clear that up too.
And where do you suggest people start? Do you, if they're in a warmer climate, maybe you suggest sandals, or does it really matter? I mean,
well, I live in Colorado, and I started doing this when it was, when winter was approaching, and I spent my first winter either barefoot or in a sandal that had just a 4 millimeter thick sole as much as I could, just because I was curious to see how long it would be till I felt the need to put on shoes. And the next thing I knew, it was March. So the recommendation is don't be an idiot, and don't, look at me as an example, because I'm just always testing things to see what's possible for humans. Yeah. So I'm going a little extreme sometimes, but the simplest thing is, if you want to learn about having natural form and what that could do for you, you want to find a nice, smooth, hard surface, because that's going to give you the most feedback. You want to go for a super short run, like 20 seconds. And again, if you're not having fun, do something different so you are. And the doing something different to you are is going to be picking up your cadence a little bit. So more steps per minute, but not running faster, making sure you're landing with your foot like underneath your body. There's a bunch of cues that you can give, like pretend you're Fred Flintstone trying to start a car. Your feet are kind of landing behind you in a way. They don't really land behind you, but that's an image to get. Yeah. Or imagine your feet are on a wheel and they just barely touch the ground at the speed the wheel's moving across the ground. Or you want to think about lifting your foot off the ground before it even hits the ground is another way of thinking of it. Or you want to think about not landing on the ground, but letting your feet barely touch the ground is another image to use. And play with it till you're having a good time. Then slowly add more time, add 10 seconds, add another 10 seconds later. Don't do anything until you feel comfortable doing the first thing, and then just add slowly from there. And if you feel like you need some protection, then that's why we're here. And you can pick up pretty much anything we have, whether it's protection from the cold, protection from the heat, protection from the elements. That's why you switch to footwear.
One of the things that interests me, and hopefully other people, is what makes you think, all right, we've had many suggestions for this one, or, in this one, what makes you pick that one? And how do you go about picking materials and all that good stuff, for each one?
Yeah, it's a combination of three things. One, we have a brilliant product development team. Our chief product officer is a guy named Dennis Driscoll. He's been developing footwear for 45 years. Wow. And then he and I met socially, he had gotten a pair of sandals and said, these things changed my life. How can I help? It's like, well, I can't imagine how you can help, because you were getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars at your last job. Yeah. And we're a tiny little company running out of a corner of a spare bedroom of our house. He goes, yeah, I just retired. I went, oh, you're hired then. So we were incredibly lucky that we just found people who believed in what we were doing, because they either had a profound experience or they saw the many other people who were. Like, my wife has a line, there's no need to start another shoe company. There's enough shoe companies in the world. Oh, unless your shoes change people's lives, then you got to do it. Yeah. And that's where we are. So the product development team does some of this work. I come in and argue with them and say, yeah, we got to do it a little differently. And then we've actually just started doing something where we found ways of getting people's opinions without giving away too many secrets. I can't even tell you quite how, but we're trying to do more polling to see if our instincts match what people think, because we haven't been right 100% of the time. I take it back. We've been right 100% of the time in our ability to make shoes that are crazy comfortable and useful and durable. Mm-hmm. But we've had a few where people just didn't buy them because they didn't like the style. They didn't feel them on their feet. So we had a couple shoes where literally the favorite shoe of everybody in our office, and it just didn't sell that well because the style wasn't what was really resonating with people, but the comfort factor was. So sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes we're wrong on colors. We'll pick a color that we're confident is going to crush it, doesn't do anything. And then another color where we go, we'll throw that in there for the hell of it. And that's the one that takes off. Yeah. So the thing that I say is there's obviously no way to do this perfectly. If there were, there wouldn't be a Ross or TJ Maxx or Marshalls or any of these companies that sell closeout stuff from, when other companies guessed wrong.
Yeah. And did you approach REI or did REI approach you? I know that's a completely random other than
No, that's totally fine. I was going after them for 7 years, and they kept telling me no. And then finally, for various reasons, and finally, like in 2017 or 18, I showed the head footwear buyer a sandal that was pretty close to what she was asking for. And then she's like, "Oh, I totally want this." And then she got moved to a different department. It's like, oh, so we lost a couple of years. And then we had our shoe, our first casual shoe, the Hana. We had an order in the system from them. They loved it. And then at the last minute, they didn't place the order. And we found out that coincidentally, one of our biggest competitors had called them saying, "We don't want Xero Shoes in your store."
Wow.
Because we had been at a smaller store where they used to kind of track how well things are going. And we outsold them in the previous month. And they were like, whoa. So it was a combination of us continually begging for them to check us out, and then the right timing. So in 2019 is when they picked up our Z Trail sandal. So it's a sports sandal. Think Chaco, Teva, Keen, but then get rid of 75% of the weight and make it flexible and comfortable. And they bought a few thousand pairs that we delivered in 3 installments. And between the first and the second, they said, "Can we get another 900?" And between the second and third, they said, "Can we get another 800?" And after the third, they said, "Can we get the rest of your inventory?" I said, "No, you could order the amount of product that I knew you were going to sell. That's what I recommend." So that was how it all began. And they picked up more and more styles every season. So now we just got a report today. In fact, the sales of our hiking boots and shoes in REI are going through the roof.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah,
I actually have both of them. I love them. I've done reviews on both of them. Now, what makes you decide to add padding into the hiking hiking shoes?
Well, to be clear, what we added was
well, not padding, but like
it was 3 millimeters, 3 to 3.5 millimeters of a foam we call trail foam. That's really interesting to me for a particular reason. So we knew that there are some people who needed a little more protection because they're running on trails and they're not paying attention to how they're running. You can run trails barefoot. I've done it with a couple people. It's super fun. You just you develop this interesting skill of simultaneously looking where your feet are going to go and looking at the whole vista. It's really cool. But where some people, it's like, I need just a little something. That 3 millimeters of foam, it barely compresses, but people talk about it like it's incredibly comfortable. And I think there's an evolutionary reason for that tiny bit of give, like a millimeter of give, must have told us at some point in the past, something good is nearby: food, water, something, Costco, I don't know what. And so that's what we do. Is just we natural movement is first and foremost. And part of natural movement is getting feedback from the ground. You have more nerve endings in the sole of your feet than anywhere but your fingertips and your lips. That's to tell your brain how to move the rest of your body, starting with the ability to move your feet. Yeah. And so we never want to make it so you're not getting that feedback and not having that motion. So we're very careful about when we add a little bit of extra protection so that we're giving people that comfort that they need, that extra protection they need, but still allowing them to move naturally and get the ground feedback that they need.
Yeah. I do. You do notice a bit of a difference, but it's a very welcome, because especially on really sharp terrain and stuff like that.
It's funny when I switch from like one of our, like the Z Trail, which is our trail running sandal, which has a little bit of foam in it, to the Z Trek, which is just 6 millimeters of rubber. Like when I switch that direction, it's like, oh my God, I can feel things again. Oh, that's good. And then I switch back to the trail, that little protection. It's like, now I'm getting a vacation.
It does actually feel like a vacation.
And wait, I'm going to say something I've rarely said to another human being. Man, I love listening to you talk.
Do you? Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to start a podcast on top of this YouTube thing at some point. There's only so much time in the day. Oh, I do have to ask, and you might not be able to answer this. I'm a huge cyclist. I don't know. You can see one of my bikes actually right behind me. Are you going to ever be doing a cycling shoe?
Ever? Yes. When? I can't tell you because I don't know yet. We were sponsoring a professional cycling team just to give them stuff to wear when they're off their bikes. And one day a guy took off his cleats, put on one of our shoes, our Prio, which is our kind of all around everything you can think of shoe. And he rode home wearing those and called and said, "I'm putting out more power in these than when I'm clipped in." I said, "Yeah, because you're actually engaging your foot, which engages your posterior chain, which helps you ride." And they're like, "Huh." So we started exploring that. We still are. And we're of course, mountain bikers are looking for something different than guys who are clipping in. And so,
Yeah.
and we have 3 or 4 serious cyclists here in the office. So we're working with them and some pro cyclists to figure out what we want to do. It's a tricky thing, because for a sport like that, like if we're going to make a shoe for golf or basketball or soccer, you need to have somebody who's got some serious street cred to say, oh no, this is for real. And you can't just come in and do it because that community says, you're just also run. So luckily we have access to some of those people, and we're looking to do it with the right product at the right time.
Okay. Yeah, I will have to add to that, actually, because when I've got flats, because I had to have my ankle replaced, and I don't want to go medical, but I can't clip out as well as I used to. So,
Right.
and I ride in the city, so I'm not, like, you never know what's going to jump out in front of you. Dogs, cats, humans, I was riding the other day. I just told this story in today's video, and some dude was riding, the push lawnmowers.
Yeah.
Somehow, some guy attached a seat to that, and he was back here like this, riding a lawnmower across. I'm like, so you never know what's going to jump in front of you, right? And I can't clip out as fast as I used to. So I've been having to ride flat pedals with your shoes. And honestly, God, I'm getting 2 to 3 more miles an hour than average than I used to.
Yeah.
So,
I think, I can think of a number of biomechanical reasons for that. And some of it is just alignment. Some of it is just, how you engage your foot and ankle and what that does to the force you're able to apply. I experienced the same thing. And we've had guys wear our sandals and ride across the country on flat pedals.
I don't like to do that because you just never know what you're going to slam your foot into. Yeah.
Dude,
and
that's why we make other shoes.
Yeah. And I've got big feet. Like I'm like a 13, 14, extremely wide. Like there's a company called Ultra. I think that's what they're called. Mm-hmm. I can't even fit in their shoes anymore. Matter of fact, I was at REI, and the guy literally asked me not to put the shoe on because he could see that how wide my foot was. Like they're huge. Anyway, so I sometimes on occasion I'll hit the front wheel. I'm not trying to do that in sandals, so I wear regular shoes. But the only thing is I do wish there was some of that foam, because the lugs on the flat pedals do push into your feet.
That's an interesting point. Well, there's a couple things you could do that you could try. One, there's I don't know if you can find the flexible carbon fiber. You could get like a 1/16, maybe 1/8 inch piece of carbon fiber and throw that in under the insole of the shoe. See what that does.
Okay.
The other, you could replace the insole that we send with something else that has just a tiny bit more and see what that does. But again, you want to be careful not to get something that's going to be too squishy, because that sucks energy out of your body.
Yeah.
The one thing we know about foam is it sucks energy out of your body. Yeah. The shoe companies call it energy return. But it's really just energy suck and how much energy suck there is. So you can play with that. We're actually looking at making what's the word I'm looking for? A rock plate, something just for those situations, just like what you're describing. Or for hiking when it's just, really, really pointy stuff. And that's on our to-do list to make one that works. There's a company called, come on. Blank on the name of it. It'll hopefully will hit me. Carbitex, Carbitex. Now they just make carbon for various products. I don't know if they even sell to normal humans.
Yeah.
But they have a thing that it's carbon fiber that flexes in one direction and not in the other.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It can like roll up in one direction and it's totally rigid. And if you try and flex it in the other direction, that might be something to check out.
Perfect. And that is it Nubosa, the real bumpy sandals. Do you plan on doing any of that with other shoes, or was that just a one and done?
So the Nubosa technology is developed by a friend of ours, a surgical podiatrist named Dr. Emily Splickle, and it's got these tiny little pyramidal bumps in it. And I got to tell you the story. When she told me she had developed this and wanted me to check it out, my response was, I was just imagining how I was going to pat her on the head nicely and say, thanks, but no thanks. Yeah. And because I tried, reflexology insoles and all these different things that are supposed to stimulate your feet. So she sends me a pair. I put them in my shoes. I'm walking insoles. I'm walking around on them for, I don't know, about an hour. And then, as I tend to do when I'm at the office, I take my shoes off. Mm-hmm. And after about a half an hour doing something, I stand up to go to the other side of the office, and my feet are grabbing the ground. And it was like, it was amazing. And so I called her and, ate my words. So we sell the Nubosa insoles, and then we made the Nubosa Trail sandal. We're not looking to put the Nubosa material in a shoe sort of full time, because there's people who don't necessarily want that. That's why we sell the insoles.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool product that there's a lot of research being done on the benefits that getting that foot stimulation creates. And this, again, should not be surprising. Your feet are designed to get that information, and your brain is designed to respond to that.
Yeah. I 100% recommend trying it out at least. Maybe get the insoles. You know, but yeah, I do recommend it. So if somebody was just a generalist and they came up to you and they said, what is the shoe that you recommend? What do you say to them?
All of them. I ask them questions about what they do, what they like, if they want more barefoot feeling or more protection, if they're running or hiking or something, wanting something casual, depends on the style thing. All of our shoes are made fundamentally the same. So like the Speed Force, which is our closest to barefoot shoe, it's a shoe that I developed with a guy who had previously been at Nike for 30 years, trying to get them to do things like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's basically one of our sandal bottoms on a upper.
Oh, really?
It's super lightweight. It's the thing I train in. I compete in it as well. So if somebody wants like the most barefoot experience and they want a shoe, I say that. Actually, the thing I do now is I tell them to go to xeroshoes.com/select, because we have the shoe finder quiz.
Oh, cool.
It helps people identify what might be a good fit for them, pun intended.
Well, that works. I don't know that I've actually come across that yet. I've got so many of your shoes, to be honest. I haven't really been on the website lately because I've only got 2 feet. You know, I can only wear so many shoes at a time.
But there's so many different things that you do in a day.
Yeah.
You know, people ask me, they go, "Who are your shoes for?" I go, "People with feet, preferably 2, but not required." And then when I said that as a joke, and then we had a handful of vets who were amputees who were sending them, wearing one of our shoes.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, you got me.
Well, that's really all the questions I had. I've got a link down below. Check them out. Can't really think of anything else off the top of my head. Can you? Got anything to add?
Read the reviews at like xeroshoes.com/reviews. And I say that because you'll hear from a lot of people who come to our products for a lot of different reasons and have lots of different experiences, many of which I'm not allowed to publicly talk about. Like we can't make any medical claims or medical promises. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV or the internet. But there are a lot of people who come to us because they've heard that letting your body do what's natural can be helpful. And I can't say whether it will or won't, other than if it makes sense. Here, I'm going to say this. I'll do this in the other way around. Let's look at a quote normal shoe again, and tell me why it makes sense to elevate your heel, which then changes your posture, which puts strain on your knees, your ankles. Tell me if your foot is shaped like this shape, which is a pointy toe, if your foot's not supposed to be that shape unless you've been squeezing it into shoes, which is problematic. Like you don't do push-ups with your fingers squeezed together.
Yeah.
Balance and agility and strength come from having flexibility and having that wider base. Same thing with your feet. The cushioning, this is going to sound crazy. Cushioning doesn't cushion. It doesn't actually reduce the impact forces. It spreads the force out so your feet don't feel it, but the force is still going into your joints. And there's tons of research on that. Again, if you have all that cushioning, your brain can't feel what your feet are telling them, it. I'm assuming you only have one brain, but who knows, just in case.
Know. They might find a study.
Yeah. And your foot's supposed to bend and flex. And, I'm bending this thing. That's not even where your foot bends. No. So having something stiff doesn't let all those bones and joints, mostly joints are what move bones, let them do their job. So, and here's the biggest thing I'll say. I'm not suggesting that someone just switch to what we do right away. There's actually interesting research that shows that people who do a 8-week foot exercise program to build strength in their feet and then run in regular shoes had a 250% lower risk of injury over the course of the subsequent year. Wow. Interestingly, there's other research showing that you can build as much foot strength as that exercise program just from walking in shoes like ours. I can't legally say that if you just walk in our shoes and run in something else, then you have a 250% chance of, or lower chance of injury, because that research hasn't been done. But, building foot strength is valuable. Walking in our shoes can do that. They're great for recovery. They're great for comfort. There's not necessarily a one size fits all option for everybody. I think there is, but what the hell? But there's always an opportunity to build strength. If you think your feet are as strong as they possibly could be for all the things you want to do, then that's okay. You can get something for comfort and for style. If you're not being limited in the things that you like to do by foot or ankle or hip or knee or back or even neck pain, then congratulations.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you're having any of those issues, it may be something starting from the foundation, starting from your feet, that rolls upstream and is related to those. So that's another reason to explore us. And more importantly, if you have any questions, reach out. We have this amazing customer happiness team. They're very knowledgeable. They're really eager to help. And we just want to help people live life feet first and,
Yeah.
do something simple like change the world.
Perfect. Yeah. And I do have to attest, they've helped me quite a bit over the years. I will say this, if you're somebody who lives like in a city or in like a kind of an urban area, maybe get the shoes and get yourself a backpack and go do your grocery shopping with the shoes. Try them out that way, because the gas prices are just getting out of hand. I mean, it went up $1 over the last week here. So
I've been spending more time on my bike than ever before.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, get yourself a bike, get yourself a pair of Xero shoes, walk, go get your groceries, do something to save on gas. Try that out. Anyway, thank you, Stephen, for
total pleasure,
joining me.
man. As always, I really appreciate your support over all this time. It's been a real treat.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.